Next up, Nebraska is roughly 46% rangeland, and we all know those pastures are an important source of forage for cattle and other livestock. But those same rangelands play an important role for pollinators as well. However, many factors are currently putting those pollinators at risk. We wanted to find out more about how pollinators impact our ecosystem, what threats they currently face, and how that impacts you. Market Journal's Bill Dodd has the story.
Home to some 22 million acres of rangeland, Nebraska is a prime location to raise livestock. The abundant variety of nutrient-rich grasses that cascade across the prairies, along with a diverse selection of forbs and shrubs, offer sustenance to our livestock operations, as well as a plethora of pollinators. While small in stature, these insects play an enormous role in maintaining these breathtaking ecosystems.
Pollinators are important to rangelands because they directly benefit the plant communities by pollinating these flowering plants that help stabilize the soil and shape a resilient ecosystem. So really they depend on what a healthy rangeland depends on its pollinators, and pollinators are really depending on these healthy rangelands as well for their habitat.
In recent years, habitat loss, along with a wide variety of contributing factors, have put many pollinators around the globe at risk. Simply being a steward of rangeland for your livestock does a tremendous amount of good for these natural landscapes. However, as the number of pollinators have declined throughout the last few decades, there are some things producers can keep in mind when taking pollinators into account.
When we're talking about native rangeland producers, just being a producer really does help, really is the first step. And then there are things that can, boost this preservation, rotating your grazing so that different pastures have rest at different times of the season, so that you have ability for those flowering plants that the pollinators are dependent on to actually flower. So really a good, nice rotational grazing system is good for the pollinators. Planting is talked about a lot when we're talking about urban systems, but when we're talking about specifically the Nebraska Sandhills, I really just think promoting what is there is really the key, giving it the rest it needs.
There are several species of plants and insects that are commonplace in the Cornhusker State. However, there are a few shining exceptions that are considered to be a rarity in our abundant rangelands. Within the Sandhills, there are some examples that show symbiotic relationships between some plants and pollinators native to Nebraska, and goes to show just how intricate these ecosystems truly are.
It's called the Western Prairie Fringed Orchid, and it can only be pollinated by a type of moth. It can be different species, but it's a family of moth that visits the flowers at night, and they have special appendages that collects the pollen. And then when it goes to the next orchid, it pollinates it. So we have an important rare species of flower that depends on just a select few species of moth. And what's kind of cool is there are actually probably an untold number of different pollinator like bees and flies and wasps, and the interactions between different prairie plants there in the Sandhills that a lot of us don't even know.
On a mission to learn more about our rangelands, the Sandhills Rangeland Monitoring Cooperative, or SRMC, is currently evaluating rangeland monitoring data that is critical to understanding the influence of management practices on the Sandhills plant communities and soil health. This program will certainly be helpful in understanding the monumental role pollinators play on our rangelands as well.
What it really is kind of comes down again to the overall awareness and looking at the pasture as a whole, kind of a holistic systems view. When we're doing monitoring, we're able to captivate or able to see what the plant community looks like and how it might shift from year to year given different management or different environmental impact. And it really does, knowing what plants are there really does help with understanding what's available for those pollinator species.
Having an appreciation for these pollinators is the first step to preserving their habitat. Next time you get a chance to admire the pristine surroundings of Nebraska's Sandhills, take a second to inspect the flowering plants near you, and you may get the chance to witness nature at work. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.